Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about the molecule DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. You may know from our previous lecture that DNA is often called the instruction book for life. But let's learn more about this interesting molecule. What's really amazing about the human body in general is that despite having such different cell types that perform completely different things, so think skin cells compared to your immune cells that fight off infections, they all have the very same DNA inside of them. So let's learn a bit more about the structure of DNA. First, a question for you. Where is DNA actually found in the body? So you can see from our first line here that DNA is found primarily in the nucleus of a cell, which is here over to the right in our diagram. Now, importantly, DNA has two strands that sort of twist together into the shape of what's called a spiral ladder or a double helix. Importantly, DNA is made of individual building blocks in the form of nucleotides that you can see here indicated by the figure that are binding together to bring this double helix ladder together. And these individual nucleotides are adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. And these nucleotides attach to each other in very specific orders to form what are called genes. Now, genes are what carry very specific genetic information that provides precise instructions that basically make you, you. Now, one of the amazing things about DNA is that all life has DNA. So something like wine grapes, for example, that you can see down below in our figure, fruit flies, chimpanzees, and even humans. We all have the same DNA and the same four nucleotides that make up that DNA, the A, T's, G's, and C's. We can see from the figure that we are all related to all other forms of life. For example, when we're comparing our genes from a human to another human, we are about 99.9% similar. So that's extremely similar. When we're comparing ourselves to, say, the genes of a dog, we're still pretty similar, 84% similar. And even something that we would consider completely different from ourselves, something like a fruit fly, we still share about 47% of our genes with that particular species. And so we are more alike than our outward appearance would suggest. Now, all of these genes are very tightly packaged in the nucleus in the form of what are called chromosomes. You can see images of human chromosomes over to the right side of our screen. You can see that we have two copies of each of these chromosomes, right? So 2 copies of chromosome 1, 2 copies of chromosome 2, 2 copies of chromosome 3, and so forth. This is because humans are what is called a diploid organism, meaning we have 2 copies of each of these chromosomes. Now, question for you. Where do you think we actually get these 2 copies from? If you're immediately thinking that we get 1 copy from mom and the other copy from dad, then you're right. So humans have 22 sets of non-sex chromosomes, generally called autosomes, and 2 sex chromosomes that make us either male or female. So individuals carrying 2 copies of the X chromosome are female, an individual carrying 1 copy of the Y chromosome and 1 X chromosome are male. This means that altogether, humans have 23 sets of chromosomes, or 46 total chromosomes in each one of their cells. Now you might be interested to know that all of our genetic information collectively comes out to about 3 billion individual nucleotides. And that's only for half of your genome, and so both copies of the genome come to about 6 billion nucleotides. That's a lot of information. Now, you might have the impression that because human beings are so complex, that we might have an increased number of genes compared to, say, another organism that we might consider more simple. But looking at this chart, you'd actually be surprised to know that that's in fact dead wrong. In fact, that you can see that we have about 21,000 genes in our genome, which is collectively all of our genetic material, indicated by Homo sapiens here. And that's only a bit more than M. musculus, which is a mouse, or even C. elegans, which is an earthworm. So we only have about 1,000 more genes than an earthworm. And even something that we would consider very simple, like wheat, for example, has 95,000 genes. That's almost 5 times the number of genes that we have. And so now that we have sort of a better idea of where DNA is found within us, that being the nucleus of all of our cells, the structure of that DNA being the double helix, and the individual building blocks, the nucleotides that make up our genes. The genes ultimately are what serve as the instruction manual for all of the cells performing their different functions. We could now get into our lab activity, and that is we're going to actually extract DNA from strawberries.